The first 2 episodes of Ahsoka are officially out, and I think we all just need to give a massive thank you to Dave Filoni. He is the chosen one. We're going to be breaking down both episode 1 and 2 in this video, so if you guys enjoy it, leave a like, comment down below what your favorite parts were about these first 2 episodes, and hit that subscribe button on the way out. We're doing another giveaway at 600 subs. And if you want to enter the giveaway for 500 subs, go to my previous video, I'll link it above. I have so much to talk about with these first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, so let's get right into it. First, I'm going to do a quick recap of the first episode, and then I'm going to recap the second episode, and in between those, I'm going to talk about the things that I saw and how I felt about those things that happened in these episodes, because there's just so much. So let's get started. The first episode is titled Master and Apprentice. It actually opens with a normal Star Wars opening crawl. Now, while it is a little bit different with the red text in the space background, we do get a nice recap of what happened in Star Wars Rebels. After the opening crawl, we open on a very similar situation to A New Hope. We see a formal Imperial ship landing on the New Republic's ship. Now, this ship is carrying Morgan Elsbeth, who we remember from Mandalorian Season 2 when Ahsoka met her and asked, "Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?" The formal Imperial ship lands on the New Republic ship, and 2 Jedi emerge. These 2 characters are Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, and their goal here is to spring Morgan Elsbeth from this New Republic ship and set her free. Now, the reason she's there is because of the events that happened in Mandalorian Season 2, so I like the connective tissue that they're already laying at the very beginning of this series. And I've got to say immediately, right off the bat, I love all of the characters in this show. They are all given the time of day and all given the chance to breathe, especially Baylan and Shin, and even Morgan Elsbeth. After the title card, we open up on a temple and we finally get to see Ahsoka, and it's just a dream come true seeing this character come to life in live action. Ahsoka is at this temple searching for something, and I got really heavy Indiana Jones vibes from this scene. She goes in the temple, moves some pieces around, and we actually find out later that this temple is actually an ancient Night Sister temple. And why are the Night Sisters so relevant still? Well, we'll find out. Ahsoka completes a puzzle, sort of Jedi Fallen Order style, and finds a star map. When she leaves, she's confronted by a bunch of assassin droids, and the action sequence here is awesome. She does this really awesome thing where she puts her lightsabers through the ground and really just drops the floor out from underneath the assassin droids, and then she just tears them to shreds. These assassin droids remind me a lot of General Grievous's bodyguards, the Magna Guards from Revenge of the Sith. I love their design, and I'm glad that Ahsoka just tears them up. She has the map, she's going to escape, and all of the assassin droids set to self-destruct. Luckily, Huyang, who we remember from the animated series, is there to save the day and pick her up. Now, when these assassin droids go off, it's like a nuke. The whole temple comes falling down to the ground, and I just think that's kind of crazy. I mean, there's just only a couple assassin droids, and the damage that they do is kind of insane. We hear that something's gone wrong with the New Republic, and of course, this is the events that we just saw prior with Baylan and Shin springing Morgan. We meet up again with Hera Syndulla, and I was a little skeptical on Hera Syndulla before watching the show. I wondered how the portrayal was going to go, and needless to say, with these first 2 episodes, they knock it out of the park. Ahsoka tells Hera about how she has this map that leads to Grand Admiral Thrawn, but not only him, there could be a chance that Ezra is with him as well. And if you haven't watched Rebels before, first, go watch it. It's incredible. It's great TV, and honestly, I feel like it's going to enrich your experience watching this if you have seen Rebels. Ahsoka wants to, of course, find Thrawn, and Hera tells her that Sabine Wren would be able to help. Now, Ahsoka is a little reluctant on this, and you'll see later on, there is definitely some tension between these two. At the end of Rebels, we saw that Ahsoka was going to train Sabine in the ways of the Jedi, but something has gone wrong. But anyways, Ahsoka lets that go and goes to Lothal, which is the main planet from Rebels. I can't believe we got to see it in live action, to recruit Sabine to try and get her to help her figure out where is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Can she read this star map? We arrive at Lothal in a great celebration of the Rebels' victory over the Empire, and who do we see? None other than Governor Azadi. If you've seen Star Wars Rebels, you know Governor Azadi played a massive role in that series, and it's so great seeing Clancy Brown bring this role to life. And while they're celebrating the Rebels, Sabine is nowhere to be found. We see the mural from Rebels, and all of the characters look just like we remember them. But the problem is Sabine isn't there. She's rebellious. She doesn't need the acknowledgement of the people to really gratify her success. She's on her own and is still being the character we know, and let me tell you, the performance here for Sabine Wren is such a standout. Her introduction in this episode as she's speeding on her speeder bike out of the city of Lothal to go to the watchtower that we know so well from Rebels was just great. And this is the first point I'm going to talk about the music in this episode, because oh my gosh, the score, I believe it's the same person who did the Clone Wars Season 7 score. It's fantastic. It feels just like Star Wars, and that's one thing I'm going to keep saying throughout this review and breakdown. This show feels like George Lucas. There are whip transitions, there are many different creative things that are very present in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy that are also present here. We get a look at Ezra's former home, which Sabine is now living in, and we finally meet a Loth cat, and again, seeing these in live action was so great. There's tons of Easter eggs around in Ezra's / Sabine's home. We of course have the Stormtrooper helmets, the markings on the wall, all of the art. We even see Sabine's armor. Sabine then pulls up the hologram of Ezra Bridger that we saw at the very end of Rebels, and seeing Ezra in live action was just something that I never thought we were going to see, but I'm so glad we did, and we're definitely going to be seeing him more. You can tell Sabine is very lost at this moment. She doesn't know what to do. She was training in the ways of the Jedi, but she misses Ezra. She feels like she failed. We cut to Morgan Elsbeth, Shin, and Baylan on the planet that Ahsoka was on at the Dathomirian Temple, and Morgan tells Shin to go to Lothal to attack Sabine Wren, Ahsoka Tano's former apprentice. Again, Baylan says something here. He says former apprentice of Ahsoka Tano, meaning something had to happen between them that stopped their training. And I think we're going to get answers as to what happened in the next week's episode. The motivations of Baylan and Shin are sort of unknown here. Yes, they are working with Morgan to help bring back Thrawn, but at the same time, they seem like they have their own objectives. And their performances are fantastic, and you can tell just by their attitudes and the way they talk that there's something else going on with these characters that we don't yet know about. Ahsoka lands on Lothal to get Sabine's help, and there's a little bit of awkwardness between them two. They're really focusing on the fact that this was a former master and apprentice relationship that has sort of fizzled out. Does Ahsoka feel regret over what happened with Anakin? Does she not think that she can train a Jedi in the way? Is Sabine too stubborn for her own good? All of these things are things that we as an audience need to find out, and I love the mystery to it. We get a great sort of awkward yet heart-to-heart moment with Ahsoka and Sabine on her ship, talking about how we could possibly bring Ezra back. They talk about the problems that they had in the past, how she was unable to finish Sabine's training. They both sort of gave up on each other. Ahsoka even brings up Anakin here and says how he wasn't even able to finish her training because she left the Jedi Order. So Ahsoka definitely still has some sort of insecurity about training a Padawan, especially when Sabine is so much like herself. I sense a sort of mirroring relationship with Anakin and Ahsoka and Sabine, and also even with Baylan and Shin, which we hopefully will get more information on. Now after that, we see Huyang and Ahsoka talk about the scans that they got from the lightsabers of Baylan and Shin. We find out that Baylan's lightsaber is actually from the Republic, meaning that he was at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. However, Shin's is new, so it is definitely a very new master and apprentice relationship. But with that being said, Baylan knows about the Jedi Order, probably knows about Anakin, probably knows about everything. So what is his motivation? Did he just turn to the dark side, or is there something more to him? Sabine finds out how to open up the star map, and we find the location that Thrawn and Ezra supposedly went to at the end of Rebels. However, there's a problem. Remember, Shin has been sent here by Morgan Elsbeth and her master Baylan to hunt down Sabine. The assassin droids arrive, attack her, steal the map, and then we have a lightsaber duel between Shin and Sabine. This lightsaber fight is fantastic, and I love how Shin is definitely more skillful with a lightsaber at this moment in time than Sabine. So much so that Sabine loses and she actually gets stabbed. Now I know a lot of people may have some issues with this scene because, well, Qui-Gon died from a stab wound, but Reva and Sabine get to live. Look, it's fine. She got hit right in the side. She didn't get hit through the gut or the heart. She will be fine. I understand why people could be upset with this, but I don't think it's too much of a stretch, because also Ahsoka arrives at the very end to save her. And with that, the first episode of Ahsoka ends. This was a fantastic start to the series. So much lore dumping, so much exposition. Now, it was definitely a little slow at times, but I love that because I do care about these characters, and the stories that we're telling with them are, well, compelling. The action was also great. There really wasn't anything that I could really complain about in this first episode. Again, seeing these characters come to life was just a dream come true. I'm gonna say that a ton of times before this series is over. And it really feels like Dave Filoni got to do what he wanted with this series, and it 100% feels like a continuation of Rebels, maybe even Rebels Season 5 as some people are calling it. The plot is also very, very intriguing. I really want to see where this goes, and I'm so glad we got a second episode. Let's dive right into it. The second episode opens up with Ahsoka looking over Sabine in a hospital on Lothal. Sabine is ready to get up and go, ready to get revenge on these people, but Ahsoka is very hesitant about this, saying, "You need to recover, you've done enough." She's being very cold towards Sabine, and I really think that they're going to have to mend this relationship in order for them to go along further and maybe even rescue Ezra and stop Thrawn. Again, as I said in my theory video, I think the main thematic element of this show is going to be the master and apprentice relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine. Because Ahsoka doesn't know how to do this. This is her first time doing it, and she's reluctant to do so. So there's going to be some issues, and they're going to have to work through them. We then flash to another planet, and remember, Baylan and Shin now have the star map that they stole from Sabine, and they brought it to Morgan Elsbeth. This second episode is called Toil and Trouble, and I think every episode might have that 1 and 2 title. We have Master and Apprentice, Toil and Trouble. What will these other episodes be called? Leave your thoughts down below what the titles you think might be for the upcoming episodes. Ahsoka goes back to Sabine's home, hoping to find one of the assassin droids that Sabine said survived the attack. And of course she does, and she decimates it. They take the head of that assassin droid, back up its memory to find out where it came from. And I really like this because it is side mission-y, but it's still telling the main story, and it really feels like a Rebels episode come to life. This story is self-contained in the larger picture, and it makes perfect sense. We get some great dialogue moments at this time between, again, Ahsoka and Sabine, and also Sabine and Hera. Hera is sort of serving as a mediator, as a relationship guidance counselor for these two, and I love it. Back on the other planet, Morgan Elsbeth, Shin, and Baylan find out how to open the star map, and they show the new galaxy. This is a huge new component to the Star Wars universe because, as we know, every Star Wars movie starts with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but now it looks like there are 2 galaxies. Now, I could be wrong about this, but it seems like this has some pretty huge implications on the greater Star Wars universe. This is why Thrawn and Ezra are gone and couldn't be contacted. They are not in this galaxy. They took the Purgils to another galaxy. It's also great seeing Morgan Elsbeth use her Dathomirian Night Sister powers to use the star map. Now, while she doesn't have the Force, it's great seeing this other force of power in live action, because we've seen it many different times in the Clone Wars especially, and to see it in live action is something we haven't seen before. Some of these engravings on the star map look very reminiscent of the World Between Worlds inscriptions that we saw in Star Wars Rebels. One of the portals looks like it's surrounded by a bunch of Purgil, and this could be leading to what we saw in the trailers and show us how to get to this other galaxy that Thrawn and Ezra are at. Are we going to go there? Are they coming back to us? We'll have to wait. Now, after Morgan leaves, we see Baylan and Shin talk, and why are they helping Morgan? They don't have the same objectives as Morgan because she wants to bring back Grand Admiral Thrawn, but they seem to have their own motives, and they seem to be being used by Morgan, but Morgan is also being used by them. Shin asks Baylan, what is the purpose of this? Why are we doing this? And Baylan says, we're doing this for sheer power. Because with this map, with the ability to go from galaxy to galaxy, there is so many possibilities. Baylan tells Shin to go to Corellia, which we found out earlier that the robot, the assassin droid that Ahsoka killed, was actually from there. So why are assassin droids being created on Corellia when Corellia is controlled by the New Republic? Well, we're about to find out. It seems that there's a massive hyperdrive being constructed on this planet for an unknown classified project. And on their way to investigate this, again, we get great moments between Hera and Ahsoka talking about what it means to train Sabine, why you should mend this relationship. And I think Hera really shines here. This was my favorite moment of her from these first 2 episodes. She really picks Ahsoka apart and isn't afraid to push her buttons and really unravel the sort of stress and sort of insecurities that she has inside. This scene alone sold me on Hera for this show. We then get a great moment between Huyang and Sabine. Now, while Huyang is a droid, he gives some really sort of philosophical insight to Sabine. I think one of the quotes he says is something like, the past is in the past, move on. Now, it's very simple and it's very droid, but it kind of carries a lot of weight. Sabine needs to overcome this sort of frustration that she has with Ahsoka and give her another chance, train her again, become a Jedi, because she needs to save Ezra. Back on Corellia, one of the workers is trying to convince Hera that this project is too classified and that they can't talk about it, but Hera is a general and there should be nothing that is classified to her. We hear one of the workers scream for the Empire, and then a fight breaks out. Ahsoka destroys all of them, of course. We then meet the other person who is with Baylan and Shin, and this is Marok. Now, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he's really reminiscent of the Inquisitors from the Empire era. He's got the same lightsaber, and we get a great fight between Ahsoka, Marok, and a couple of droids. Meanwhile, Hera and Chopper, who, oh my gosh, Chopper is just incredible in this show already. He's got the charisma, he's got that hilarity to him. He is exactly as I remember him from Rebels, and I think he's one of my favorite parts of this show so far. Hera is going after the ship that is taking the hyperdrive, and they want to put a tracker on it so they find out where it's going. Now, while Marok does escape, we see Shin and Marok looking down on Ahsoka, so she knows that they're together and knows that they're planning to do something with this massive hyperdrive. There's also an incredible moment here where a lightsaber is thrown at Ahsoka, and when it eventually comes back, she just barely moves to the side and acts like it's not even phasing her. It was a very Ahsoka moment. Sabine, realizing she has to forget the past and move on thanks to Huyang, goes back to her home, finds her Mandalorian armor, puts it on, and then does the same thing that Kanan Jarrus does. She cuts the hair. It's very poetic and very similar to the events that happened with Kanan in Rebels. He is accepting the fact that he's a Jedi. Now Sabine is accepting the fact that she is going to be a Padawan learner for Ahsoka moving forward. She's giving it a second try, and she's going to succeed this time. And I think her main motivation here is to save Ezra. We then get a sort of recreation of the very last scene in Rebels with Ahsoka going to the temple that Sabine's at and popping up in the white cloak, but I don't think that this is the same moment because, well, Ahsoka doesn't have the staff, she doesn't have the cloak, but it is very similar. They meet up and they're ready to train. We then cut back over to Morgan Elsbeth on her giant hyperdrive loop, which we haven't seen these since the prequel. This is sort of a device that allows ships, mainly smaller ships, to go into hyperspace if they can't buy their own, but this looks like a massive one. She's talking with Baylan and Shin about her plan to go to Grand Admiral Thrawn, but Baylan says something very interesting here. Morgan wants to kill Ahsoka Tano, and Baylan says it would be a shame, feeling some sort of remorse for wanting to kill Ahsoka because she's one of the last few Jedi left, and Baylan said it would be a shame. So they've definitely got some completely different motives than Morgan Elsbeth and returning Thrawn. They are after something else, and I don't think they want to kill Ahsoka, but who knows what's gonna happen. Ahsoka is definitely going to have to stop them with whatever their plan is, so they're going to fight eventually. With that being said, the second episode is done. These two episodes were absolutely killer starts to this show. Were they slow at times? Yes, but that's what a story is supposed to do. You're supposed to get the exposition, especially for people who haven't watched the animated series. These characters are all new to them. With that being said, if you haven't watched Rebels before, I do think it would be beneficial to go back and watch it. You might still be able to catch on, and I think this show does a good job already of allowing new watchers to come in and completely enjoy it, but I do think watching Rebels would be very helpful, especially just building the relationships with the characters that we're seeing in these first two episodes. This was an incredible start to the series. I cannot wait for next week, and the story itself is just so intriguing. What does it mean to have a brand new galaxy that Thrawn and Ezra are supposedly at? What does that mean for not just this season and this story, but for the grander Star Wars universe as a whole? I think Dave Filoni is onto something here, and I think this show is going to be very special, and it's off to a killer start. I loved it so much. It just felt like George Lucas Star Wars, and Dave Filoni, yes, is the heir to Star Wars. He was trained under George Lucas, and you can really tell that he took everything that George taught him to heart and really just put it in this show. In the comments down below, let me know what you thought about these first two episodes of Ahsoka, and if there's anything I missed in this breakdown, let me know. I'd love to read it. I read every single comment, and I will most likely respond. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to be posting many different Ahsoka videos throughout the week, so if you want to see those, please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all very soon.